I was gonna start with Luke Cage, but that would be a lie. Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new video in which I review the first season of Marvel's Luke Cage on Netflix. For those of you who haven't seen the show, I will actually be talking about the episodes in general, specifically, so there's gonna be some spoiler. So consider this to be your spoiler alert. For those of you who've seen it, let's go. Before I go into the things that I didn't really like about the series, let's just talk about the things I actually liked about the series. Starting with Luke Cage himself. As a character, he was actually a very nice guy, and it was actually refreshing to see a nice person with abilities, but just with strong moral ethics, really just straight arrow, really good guy from beginning to end. No shades, just a good person through and through, just the Boy Scout, if you will. Moving on to Misty Knight, the NYPD detective slash occasional lover slash sidekick of Mr. Luke Cage. I love the fact that they gave her character a lot of depth and they actually took some time to build her up as a really fantastic detective, especially with the device where you actually saw what she saw in her head. She has that ability to just work her memory that way. That was really fascinating. It was to the point where I was like, you know, that actually would be a pretty interesting cop show where the detective has that particular ability of reconstructing what really happened just based on what's going on. She's kind of like a genius in that end, and I actually enjoyed watching that. So the procedural fan in me enjoyed that part a lot. Cottonmouth, played by Mr. Mahershala Ali. Damn, I love that character. I mean, Ali did such a fantastic job with that character. Very specific, just very straightforward. You understood what kind of motivation were pulling him. Yes, he was a bad guy. Yes, he was a villain. But you know what? He was nuanced in that way because he wanted to accomplish something a little bit bigger, and you actually saw where he came from and what kind of motivation he had to deal with in order to achieve his particular goal. So I respected the character for who he was and what he did, and I really think that Mahershala did a fantastic job bringing that character to life. And the other thing I really enjoyed about this show is that it was unapologetic about delving into the race relations that are complicated in our current society because of the fact that we're talking here about an African American that is bulletproof and that's highlighting some of the tension between the police and Black America. I particularly enjoyed when Method Man was giving his interview and at some point just went into a rap, and you see all these folks in Harlem wearing hoodies with holes in them, showing solidarity with Luke Cage. What also highlighted what's currently going on today, where being a black man in America can sometimes just get you shot. I thought this was a perfect way of talking about this particular issue in a meaningful way, yet still making it relevant to the actual series, so it didn't feel out of place at all. I thought it was just fantastic. I loved it. What else did I like? Yeah, that's it. Yep, those were really the only good parts that I liked about this series. Everything else was pretty bad. I'm not gonna talk about everything. I'm just gonna highlight some of the big issues that really prevented me from really enjoying this series. First of all, let's talk about the origin story. I came in expecting an origin story that was straightforward and simple, and we understood what Luke Cage was, what brought him to who he was today, and then pretty much it was current circumstances that were driving him forward. But instead what we got was a pretty convoluted but ultimately truly boring origin story where we found out that basically Luke Cage was a normal police officer that got framed by his half-brother who was really jealous of the attention that their philandering preacher father was giving them. Fundamentally, that's what drove Luke to being in jail and the experiment and him being him today, and also his half-brother Diamondback being who he is today. That's fundamentally what it is. You know, if I had just found that out pretty quickly in like one episode, it would have been fine. But the fact is, that origin story that I just summarized right here was given out little by little throughout the series. And then at the end, you were like, are you serious? Are these guys just fighting for that? This whole conflict just sounded petty and unneeded and is hardly the driving force, you know, the dramatic driving force that you need in order to understand the tension between these two individuals. The other issue that I had was how Luke dealt with conflict. You know, as a hero, with abilities, you're tasked with doing certain things. One of them is to be able to take on bad guys in a way that's logical yet effective. And I have to say, Luke Cage is not the most effective superhero I've ever seen. Let's start with Cottonmouth. One of the really cool things that he did was go really big, go after Fort Knox, steal some money from Cottonmouth, while at the same time bringing down his operation in a pretty major way. Pretty big deal, right? Like everybody was like, whoa, what the hell? Luke Cage did that. And then what was his follow-up? He just went to Cottonmouth and said, hey, I know I just took $7 million away from you, but you should just chill and calm down and walk away and not harass the people of Harlem. And then he walked away. That was literally it. He didn't even lay a finger on Cottonmouth. I mean, bro, are you serious with me? Look, you go and basically take away the man's money. And the only follow-up you have from that is a stern warning? What the? How is that an effective strategy? It made no sense. It's just one of those things that's just like, okay, what? Even going after the goons didn't make sense. Like, throughout the series, he kept beating up the same goons over and over again. I mean, at some point it just became a joke. I'm like, didn't he just beat your ass yesterday and you're back at it? But the absolute worst was what he did going after Diamondback. This guy was pure evil. He's the one who set up Luke to go to jail. Then when Luke finds out and gets shot again and almost dies because of that guy, what does he do? He sort of like lumbers around the city trying to find the guy, and then when he does, in the most illogical fight in the history of fights, just lets himself get punched and gives him one punch that just lays him out. Like, first of all, let's just talk about this supposed suit the Diamondback had that was so strong. And Luke was like, oh my God, what can I do? Let's ponder and think about this. Okay, you hit him here, everywhere the suit is, it kind of absorbs, you know, the hits. Okay, that's fine. And he also has a helmet, so I guess it also absorbs the hits, so there's always that. If only there was some sort of opening in that helmet where you could see the face and that opening wasn't sort of protected by anything. Oh wait, that was literally there. And at no point did the guy actually punch him in the face one time. I actually watched the scene again. I was like, what is this? What is this? What's happening? Like literally his face is right here. Just poof, that's it. Just flick him and you're done. Which really brings me to the big weakness of this series, i.e. the villain. Now obviously I'm putting Cottonmouth aside here because I actually liked that character. And quite frankly, up until the Cottonmouth's death, I was okay with this show. But after Cottonmouth was gone, whew, this show just like, it just lost it for me. Who were the two big villains at the end? Marina Dillard and Diamondback. So let's just talk about Marina Dillard really quickly. Throughout the series, all she does is go back and forth between, I want to help Harlem. Harlem is everything. Also, I want power. Power is everything. I'm sorry, which one is it? Is it Harlem or the power? I'm not sure. And then she's like, I'm out. I'm leaving this business. Okay, I'm gonna get guns. Okay, I'm still in. I'm like, I did not get what was her motivation. Was it Harlem? Was it power? I didn't quite get that. What was really driving her? And her approach with Luke Cage also didn't make sense. She kept going from, let's leave Luke alone. Let's go after Luke. Let's leave him alone. Let's work with him. I was confused as heck with her. I was like, what's going on? But you know what? She is nothing compared to my favorite, Diamondback. Honestly, he just was what I would call a stereotypical one-layer villain, was just mean with a side of mean, and that's it. There was literally nothing in his dialogue, in his story, in the performance that made me think, you know what? This is an interesting, complex character that I'm looking at here. And I would love to see how him and Luke are gonna square things away. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, as a character, it was just fundamentally broadly uninteresting because it was just so one note, and that one note wasn't even great to begin with because all it was filled with was just these weird moments of grandiose speech filled with biblical quotes and then doing some evil stuff right after. But it wasn't even interesting. Look, if you're gonna compare villains in the Marvel Universe, I can bring you two that are fantastic. Wilson Fisk? Can I get some layers and nuance up in there? Kilgrave, played by David Tennant, was fantastic. He was actually the only part of Jessica Jones that I actually enjoyed. Jessica Jones wasn't my favorite, but Kilgrave really made the show for me. But here, like, the villains killed the show for me. Now I could keep going and just talk about all the other stuff that kind of irritated me. But after thinking about it honestly, it really was those things that really destroyed it for me. No show is perfect, but there are some things that are sort of like irredeemable and unforgivable. And after having a boring origin story, ineffective heroing, and just kind of the worst villains I've seen in a very long time, I could not, in all conscience, enjoy this show one bit. So there you go, guys. That's what I thought of Luke Cage Season 1. Whether you loved it or not, comment below, let me know what you thought of Luke Cage Season 1. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos coming up. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye. Will I be watching Season 2? I guess. I mean, I will. I just probably am not planning on enjoying it. I'm just hoping it gets better. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that once the whole Defenders starts happening with Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage start working together, it gets a little bit more interesting. This was not my favorite Marvel TV series by far. Definitely goes Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. And I hate saying that because I was so excited.